Smartphone desktop modes with laptop docks, are we finally able to cut the cable? The folks at UPerfect sent over this. This is the X14 Pro wireless laptop for me to take on a test drive and share some thoughts. This is a product category I'm really fond of. Battery-powered portable displays with their own screen guard, keyboard and trackpad, memory card reader, headphone jack, and speakers in a familiar laptop-like form factor. If your phone supports some kind of desktop mode or alternative video out, you probably already have a more powerful computer in your pocket than buying a cheap student laptop or Chromebook, and it's one of the points that some techies seem to have the most trouble grokking. It's a display that you can use with anything. Obviously, smartphones, tablets, computers, laptops, but also cameras and game consoles. So most of the folks that I see panning these kinds of products in my comments, they get fixated on one specific use, like using a phone desktop mode, and they just refuse to see all the other ways that an accessory like this can fit into someone's overall gadget life. In general, a portable display is one of the best accessories you can invest in if you've got a family of gadgets that you're trying to get more use out of. But back to UPerfect specifically, the X14 Pro takes this another step farther by adding wireless radios to the mix. You can connect over USB-C, HDMI, or with a compatible Miracast host wirelessly. A very little spoiler for the conclusion of this video, I'm torn on this concept. Now, the core experience here is spot on, and it's a terrific example of why I like this kind of hardware. Mobile touchscreen though, I wish it could get just a little bit brighter. Respectable LCD with good color and contrast. And it's built into a nice aluminum frame. There's a bit of heft to it, but a very familiar wraparound hinge design. You can use it as more of a slate, like a proper tablet, or you can pop it open into a tent mode, so you can just use it as a screen. It's funny, but this also makes the LapDock concept handy for laptop users, where you'd have a protected portable screen if you wanted a dual monitor setup on the go. One nitpick on my very early pre-release unit, the hinges were a little soft. A bit of shake, like walking around with the dock, can cause the screen to dip, but you can see it's not terrifically difficult to get the screen to wobble on down in cooperation with gravity. UPerfect is doing a solid job on keyboards. The keys have a good action to them, a nice tactile response when typing, and the way we build trackpads into products like these, and we have to talk about Android or even Windows sometimes, you can run into those issues where you're typing and you casually graze the edge of the trackpad and your cursor is flung off your screen or to another part of your document. I've gotten into the habit of just disabling it when I'm in a document or spreadsheet where keyboard commands are usually faster anyway, and I can hit the touch screen for some of those specific interactions that I might have needed the mouse cursor for. It's generally fine for most navigations and interactions, but the instances when it flings, certainly frustrating. I totally hear folks. I'm not sure it's something that can be truly addressed one-sided. Both the host device and the accessory need to communicate better. And it's not a crazy idea to augment with touch controls and a wireless mouse. Android handles these little wireless mice pretty well. The audio conversation on these products, it's functional, but probably not gonna blow you away. Speakers and a headphone jack are appreciated, but the speakers on a premium phone can often outperform the speakers on this dock. And I know I'm totally spoiled by all the premium headphone DACs that I review, but the headphone jack here is more than a bit hissy. Better to have it than not have it, but we're not talking audiophile grade hardware. The rest of the I/O is good. Adding a memory card is always handy, that's great. I wish the USB-C on this side could be used as an accessory port, but it's only for charging the dock while it's connected to your phone. There doesn't seem to be any way to add additional USB peripherals. And for the display itself, I love the on-screen touch controls. It's so nice having a swipe gesture instead of trying to navigate with fiddly little button presses. Quickly access brightness, audio, volume, phone charging, and screen calibration from the touchscreen. That's great. If you've seen any of my other videos on laptop docks, this is all gonna sound very familiar. This is a very good example of why I like these products, but there is something unique here, and that brings us to the wireless. We don't need to plug in a cable to drive this display with a desktop style UI. But so you know what's going on in this video, I forgot to charge my Motorola, so I'm gonna plug it back into a charger under my desk here just to make sure it doesn't die in the middle of this video recording. I can get rid of this cable though. No longer directly connected, we've got to add a lot of technology internally here to get wireless to work. Immediately, you might have figured out one issue. If you connect to the screen wirelessly, how do you control the UI? How do you use the keyboard and the trackpad? In addition to Miracast connection, you also need separate Bluetooth connections for the trackpad and the keyboard and the touch control. That takes a second to set up, but has been decently reliable since I took the time to set it up. The phone sees these options when the LapDock is on. It's all just Bluetooth, but you need the extra radios to make everything work. As long as you stay connected to one specific phone, this works really well. I also tried this with a Galaxy with DeX and with an Honor Magic 4 Pro with the Magic Desktop UI. Switching products, this thing can get a little bit finicky repairing different Bluetooth connections. I don't expect that's going to be a common occurrence for the folks really shopping something like this. I've been using this mostly with phones and spent most of my time with the Moto Edge Plus and Ready 4. Unlike plugging in a cable, there is just the extra step of opening the Ready 4 app. It takes a little longer. There we go, now we've got Ready 4, the full interface, ready to go. And that's where the reality of wireless comes into play. Whenever I see people complain about performance on Ready 4, the Honor Magic UI or Samsung DeX, that it's laggy or unresponsive, I immediately assume that they're either using it wirelessly to a TV or through another computer through an emulated display space. I've never understood the appeal of regularly using another computer to turn your phone into a slower, laggier computer. Connecting a phone directly over a cable. There are no issues with Ready 4 properly supporting up to a UHD display and keeping the UI running at 60 frames per second. Moving to wireless, I immediately see a difference in frame rate just moving the mouse cursor around. I get the idea. People who don't want a phone to be tethered to their laptop. They want to move around. They want the freedom, not worrying about a cable or a leash. But performance can degrade on a wireless video signal when you move around, or if there's just a lot of wireless noise in your general environment. Plus, we have to factor in multiple round trips. Case in point, I just dropped connection. Where are we? Hold on, let's get mobile desktop. And there we go. Had to repair. That's the first time that's ever happened to me. I was not prepared for that. The panel accepts the input and that gets sent wirelessly, and then that signal needs to return to the dock's display. UPerfect lists that the lag can hit as hard as 0.7 seconds, over half a second between when you touch the screen and it registers that command, which is in that territory where a user might think a command to the phone was ignored and try to replicate the action. That's not UPerfect's fault. That's going to be an issue with going wireless on this kind of gear. You can tell me how responsive your TV might be, just like using the trackpad on the X14 is more responsive. Touch interactions are a totally different animal in what the consumer might expect as responsive. And that brings us to the battery life. The wireless side of this is a lot better behaved than I thought it would be. I ran a couple medium length tests, cabled and wireless. Maxing out the screen brightness, constantly displaying a video. I think I'd ballpark around 4 hours of total operation plugged into the phone and a little longer than that wirelessly. I just said that the display on its own ran longer wirelessly. Because when I plug the phone in, I like the dock to charge my phone. An hour of video plugged in, the UPerfect dropped about 24% as the dock measures its own battery. But my phone went from 88% charge to 98% charge and then just stayed fully topped off. The flip side, going wireless, the UPerfect drained about 20% of its battery, and my phone drained about 17% of its battery. This is one of those complications to cutting a cable. We can do a lot more with our phones, but heavier computing tasks mean killing the battery life for our phone to be a phone. When you gotta rely on it as a communications gadget, you might not always wanna use it heavy as a compute gadget. A LapDock means you can run your phone as a computer for hours and still have a fully charged phone when you're done. If I'm going wireless, these are draining independently, and I still need to plug my phone in, so why wouldn't I just plug it into the dock? Getting to the end of this review, I promise, there is an ending in sight. For myself personally, I'm good with the cable. The untethered part of going wireless will surely appeal to some folks out there, but it comes with a higher price tag. While brand new, the X14 Pro is selling for $600. I totally understand why that is. That's correct. You've added radios and controllers to a simple concept. That makes the part list more expensive, the assembly more expensive, the QA more expensive. All of this has to be accounted for. The smarter, savvier, sexier tech enthusiast, you know, those folks who like to hit thumbs up and subscribe options underneath YouTube videos such as this, they'll need to decide if the wireless component of this product is worth a $260 premium over the fantastic UPerfect X. Very similar hardware, very similar experience, no wireless, a lot less expensive. I feel preemptively defensive of this gadget here. It does a much better job of realizing this wireless concept than I was expecting it to, but it's still a wireless version of this kind of computing. Can't say I'm terrifically surprised that it performs similarly to other wireless solutions that I've used in the past. Namely, it's not as fluid as plugging in the cable. That's not a fault with UPerfect, it's an industry-wide issue with how we send data over the air. We can barely keep stable audio consistently streaming to earbuds over Bluetooth, let alone at higher fidelity. The information you need to send for display fidelity is an order of magnitude more demanding. But techies on YouTube comments and in subreddits have complained about previous LapDocks not being worth it enough. They should have made it wireless, then it would be more worth it for the monies. When techies say stuff like that, what they mean is the manufacturer should give me all the benefits of the wired product and add wireless connectivity, and it should still cost less than the wired version they currently sell, which is fantasy. That's a fantasy product. UPerfect kinda nailed this. They heard the call for wireless operation, and in their first attempt, I think they achieved what wireless really looks like. They considered the potential pitfalls, solved issues with input devices, and used the best possible standards that should work broadly across numerous gadgets, instead of making users install proprietary apps or have to double up on things like Wi-Fi data transfer. The reality of all that work and added complexity means this has to be a more expensive product. The X14 Pro more than satisfies the manufacturer's claims, and it is. It's a fun product to use. This is now the most flexible version of a LapDock currently available, especially from such a small boutique brand. That deserves a lot of praise. So I hope those techies who were out there in my comments asking for this kind of functionality, I hope they get out there and support the company making the products they were requesting. I've been telling folks why I've been fine with the cable, so if you've been in my comments saying, oh, it needs to be wireless, now you know what you can spend your money on. So of course, I've included all those links below so you can get more information on the UPerfect X14 Pro and where you can shop this dock online. Got a little spicy at the end there. As always, thanks so much for watching, sharing these videos, subscribing to the channel. All the support lately has been amazing. If you are, clicking links in the description, if you're hitting my home site, SomeGadgetGuy.com, or if you're joining all of the names scrolling by on your screen from my Patreon, patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list is basically the coolest collection of tech pals in the omniverse, in the multiverse. So I hope you'll check them out. Now, You know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch, not so much on the Facebooks or the Instagrams, and I will catch you all on the next review.